industry research is so important. And so I encourage buyers out there to research the industry. That's what I do when I'm talking to these new brands. I will have a 30 to 50 page industry report that's pulled out that I get to see what's happening in this industry. And then as I'm talking to these different brands that are in the industry, I start to validate what it is.
Representing Franchise Secrets, Eric Von Horn.
Kristin, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me, Eric. I appreciate it.
I thought you've been on before. I'm like, you haven't been on? And you're like, no. I swear you've been on. Maybe I just think like you should have been on. You should have definitely been on by now. So thanks for coming.
Well, thanks for inviting me. It feels the same way. I'm glad to be here though, and you've had an influence on a lot of the different things I'm doing. From the mastermind with Justin and just everything like over on the franchisee side too, on that mastermind too. So yeah.
It's been fun, like how we've just become friends. And I spent some time with you in DC and, these different events that we go to inside both masterminds, the franchisee mastermind, the tribe of investor mastermind. So I just love having friends like you that are in franchising too. So
Vice
um,
versa.
you are a franchisee, multi-unit franchisee. And we just had Nick Najar on. He's a franchisee of the same one. So why don't you just give a little bit of your background, and then I want to kind of jump into some of the things that you're doing now.
Yeah, let's see. So background, I started like the Cutco knives, selling those in college, and was top 50 in Cutco's history of salespeople. And that was a lot of fun and great training. That's how I met both those guys we were talking about. They were both in Cutco too, back in the day. And then Real Producers was brought to me as an idea. And I was like, good Lord, this makes total sense. If y'all don't let me in, I'm going to do this myself. And they did. And I went from one franchise to having 7 in 2025. Um, and being a multi-unit owner, I was like the 6th franchise. So it was an emerging brand when I joined um, Real Producers with N2. So that's the background.
So you were top 50. What was Justin? Was Justin top 100? Justin Donald? Were
Yeah,
you better than him, or is he better than you?
well, he went into the leadership side, and I mean, I did too. I was a district manager, so he was a really successful like district manager, and then ran the events and so on with N2. Um, for pure sales as a rep, I would say that I believe I've like close to 3 million or something. So I think I sold more knives than he did, but overall, he led more people.
Well, I didn't ask the second part of the question. I just want to know who sold more knives. That's all. That's all we need to
I
know.
sold more knives, man. I sold
We'll
more
edit
knives.
out the other part of that, and then I'll send this clip to him.
That's awesome.
All right. So Nick never really went into too much of what Real Producers does, and I don't think it's not known out there in the franchise world that a lot of people are involved with. So I think there's probably a lot of people from Cutco that are involved and got started in Real Producers, and I'm sure it expanded out of there. But it's one of these brands that I think is very interesting. So why don't you just share a little bit about like what it is?
Yeah. So, what Real Producers is, it's a relationship platform centered around a publication that goes to a niche market. So, it goes to the top 500 realtors in a marketplace. And those agents tend to do most of the business of that area. So, like for instance, in the DC metro marketplace, there's over 22,000 realtors. The top 500 do about 90% of the business. So, those are the people that we have events with, publication, private public social media. So it's truly a relationship platform for those top agents to connect to each other. And then our advertisers are the vendors and businesses that support real estate, lending, title, movers, inspection, builders, designers, stagers, junk removal, you name it, those industries. And that is Real Producers. And it's been amazing. I've thrown hundreds of events, connected tons of people, It's fun. I've truly become a connector over the years, and that's what Real Producers really does is connect the community. So yeah, that's
You're
Real.
a you're a world-class connector. I know that, because I've been on the receiving end of that. Have you always been that way, or is that something that you, grew in quite a bit through Real Producers?
You know, it really did cultivate it. So I've always loved to connect people. Like I have a specific example back in the day when in Cutco, I went to this BNI event and I remember connecting this gal who was a doctor with this other humanitarian lady who just did tons of trips all over and both were looking for each other. And I remember connecting and being really like that was one of my favorite things that I had done to that point. So when Real Producers came around and gave me a chance to really start connecting people on a really deep level on a regular basis, it became a lot of fun for me. So Real Producers really helped cultivate that, and I'll always be grateful for that. Like, yeah.
So how many give us a sense of, like, your organization today. What's your footprint? Where do you have these Real Producers?
Yep. So I have DC Metro, Northern Virginia, Richmond, Charlotte, and then we have South Jersey and Capital. And I just sold Long Island at the end of last year. So it's the East Coast basically for Real Producers. Um, and that's really the footprint. I live in Maryland. So yeah.
So when you started, did you start from franchisee number 4? I'm guessing you didn't buy it out an existing. So how much of were those, like, built from the ground up versus acquisitions?
Yeah, I built 4 from the ground up, and I acquired 3 of them, with seller financing, no money down, and really enjoyed that process and learned a ton about buying and selling businesses. Like, I just learned so much from that process, and, uh, doing 4 from scratch also taught me a lot about, like, how well we can bootstrap and just do the things as a leadership team. So I have about 10 people in the United States and like 7 people in the Philippines on my team right now to run all these because we print about 300 pages a month of publication and it's funny because I can't spell worth a darn so it cracks me up like that I have publications and marketing and it's very funny so
Does everyone, like, that's a franchisee there hire offshore help, or were you early on in that? Give us a sense
yeah
of, like, where that came from the franchisor, what you did as a franchisee.
I was early on in that, and then more people did it, and there's a lot of top franchisees that have. And then actually, the gal who used to be my region manager then took over a piece within N2, and it has done it largely within N2 after watching all the people in my business. So now, yeah, the franchisor actually does that now too. So, yeah.
So buying businesses, I know that you were involved with, like, Roland Frazier's buying business stuff. Is that kind of the main thing that you use to kind of educate yourself, negotiation and whatnot? Were there others that you followed? Maybe it was Walker Dybel or Cody Sanchez, or maybe it was just Roland
Oh,
Frazier.
I did check out some Cody Sanchez. Actually, I believe you told me to check that out too. And Roland, you actually were the one back in the day that said, "Hey, you should check out Roland Frazier," and so I did. And when I had bought those businesses, I hadn't gone through Roland yet. But when I sold Long Island, it was helpful because I had already done the training with Roland, and actually, I feel like it's really set me up properly for like this next stage of everything that I'm doing, and even buying the rental properties. It was helpful for that because from May of last year to November, I bought 3 rental properties, which was on my goal for the year. And it really is a business, just like my other businesses are businesses. So that's been a lot of fun. I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a ton, and I'm going to buy 2 or 3 more this year. And yeah, it's a great business. So
So
yeah.
why did you sell? I'm a big fan of selling stuff, though. So, like, I've early on, I learned buying and selling within the same franchise organization. And just because I sold doesn't mean I was exiting or getting out. It meant, I was looking for opportunities. Some of them were distressed. Some of them were just opportunistic. Somebody wanted to leave. There's all kinds of different reasons for me to buy and sell, but it was all opportunistic. And then with Sola, it was it was time to sell for various different reasons. And it was a nice exit, and it was an exit out of the franchise system when we sold all 12 of those. For you, why did you sell that one? And just what's your mindset around buying and selling in that system?
Yeah, for me, I have decided to go deeper in the ones that I have and not to keep expanding because it was fast expansion. I went from, in just a 8.5 year time frame, actually even faster than that to get to seven. I went and within 7 years I got to seven franchises. And so I was like adding a franchise every single year and not slowing down and just continuing to grow, 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 grow. And there comes a point of saturation and like happiness spot for me. I realized it wasn't bringing more joy, it was just bringing more to do. And 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 I could go deeper and actually make more going deeper in the ones that I own. So yeah, totally by opportunity. And then also I've learned so many things that now I'm like, okay, I kind of am very excited about what that looks like outside of real producers too. So consolidating, going deeper in what we have instead of being in expansion mode within allows time for my leadership team because we have all our systems in place now and we're really, I mean, we're a year ahead on all of our publications. We're just in this beautiful spot where we now have the space to add other businesses, which is super exciting and fun. It gets a little boring when you do the same thing over and over again. For me anyway, it does.
I think it's interesting when you're an entrepreneur or franchisee, you go from one location to two locations. It's a heavy lift. There's a lot happening. And then you go to three locations. And for you, you're in different markets, which is another heavy lift. And then it gets a bit easier as you have a deeper bent and you're going, 4, 5, 6, 7, 12. Those are all a lot easier. But then you start to sell some of them off, and now you're back down to three or four or whatever that number is. I just use those as kind of round numbers because a lot of times franchisees buy three of them, nine of them, 12 of them. So you're at 12, you go back down to three. It's really easy doing three when you've sold some and your leadership's in place and the business is stable versus when you go from one to three. So have you, as you sold that one, and then your other ones are pretty stable, are you kind of seeing how that is true, how that plays out? It's just easier.
Yes, and our team gets the time back, and that just keeps multiplying because we're also doing a lot with Make and Zapier and a lot of automation. So a lot of our team's gotten time back, which allows us to get even tighter in our systems and everything else, and then more space to do the same thing in another business. Like really optimize. And I have a great leadership bench. Like without Jamie and Wendy, ay, ay, ay. For me, they are so important. They run the systems. One organizes everyone and everything, and the other one runs all the staff and all the people. And that has really freed me up too. You know what I mean? In such a large way to then think and vision and acquire. So it's super fun.
So you talk about Make and Zapier, and now you're speaking my language. I've really the franchisee mastermind today is so much AI automation, and I'm starting to dabble in vibe coding. So I built some different apps over the weekend, and then I was texting with Kazim Aslam because he does a lot of that. I was texting with Jeff Hunter, Jeff,
Yeah, no Jeff,
and I
yeah.
was texting with those guys, and Cosm's coming back on the podcast to talk about some of the virtual assistant stuff. I'm sure we will talk about some of this lovable apps and some of these N8N and different and Make and different tools that entrepreneurs have these days. And then Jeff Hunter said, "Hey, you want me to do something with your community to talk about vibe coding?" And so he'll come into the franchisee and franchisor mastermind to talk about some of that, because the stuff that I've built just recently, I'm like, why didn't I do that before? Even around content, you can create an app, put in a podcast, and it will kick out all of these different, and I've set it up
Pieces,
this way.
right? Like
What's that?
assets. like all these different assets,
All
right?
the
Like all
assets. It will create my LinkedIn where I'd have to go separately to the AI to ask it to do a LinkedIn post, a Facebook post, a Facebook group post, and all of these different things. And now I put that, it automatically goes in and it automatically kicks out all of that. And that's just a really easy one. We're doing that for some different things at Front Street and analyzing sales calls and all kinds of stuff. So I'm not stopping on this. I'm going to keep going.
I love it. Like I love all the things we can do and go high level now, and just there's so many possibilities within media, within communities. Like it's uh, gonna just keep getting better and better, which is very exciting.
All
It's
right.
a great time to be an
I
entrepreneur.
know. I know. I want to ask you about like your buying criteria as you are going to be buying other businesses and you're buying you're getting into other investments. So I want to get into that with you because it's both could be inside or outside of franchising, but this is like something that you're actively doing now and you have your criteria list as you're starting to go out there and look. Before I
Oh
get
yeah.
to that,
Yeah.
I want to know like what are you doing today with virtual assistants? And I also want to dig into AI. Like, what are you doing? How are you using it? So let's start with virtual assistants because remember, it was years ago when I first. Well, Cameron Harold came into the mastermind. Is like, if you don't have an assistant, you are one, and that's when I first started to hire an executive assistant that was a highly paid executive assistant, but then it rolled into different virtual assistants. And now we have virtual assistants that work for us at Front Street. We're doing more of that, and I'm getting ready to hire some more for us at Front Street and me personally. So,
Good.
as a franchisee, what are you doing with virtual assistants these days?
Oh, so let's see. We have people that help with the stories themselves. So we use AI with writer profiles, and we have an editor overseas too. And then internally here, as a look over at the end, we have a social media person from overseas. We have all of our data entry and backend entry from the forms that get put in and then checked against, and all the connections within the CRM, things that automation just cannot do to this point. So we have a lot of automation, and then we have all the checks and balances with them because we have a lot of information between all the areas that gets entered every single week and month. Uh, for the leads, because they're all warm from real estate agents, like the way that we do everything. So we have assistants to help with that. My guy who does tech for me, who's been doing it for 10 years, he was my first virtual assistant. And he does my websites and all of the techie stuff and all the Make and Zapier. And he's amazing and been with me for a long time. You know, what started that whole journey is I literally bought him a computer. I was working with a company right away, didn't realize that they were really in modern day slavery, basically, with that company. I gave him a computer for Christmas because his had died and I was just being nice. and, and he was like, I'd like to work for you full time. I'm like, kind of was thinking you already were. That's great. Um, and so then, anyway, he came to work with me full time, and then it's all by referral over there, just by being kind to people. You know what I mean? I really believe there's karma in all of those things. So yeah, that's how that got started. But that's mostly, and it's funny because I don't even run all that piece anymore, so I know I'm missing things that we have of but that's the gist over there. And AI, so the second part of the question was like AI, and we're using Make and Zapier big time and go high level. We use the campaigns. Um, we use a lot of different automation throughout all of our systems. And I have other people on the team that run that. So I mean, I have the overall schematic and the visual that I get to see. And then I ask questions and poke holes. And when it's my turn on the leadership, we use EOS and the leadership meetings. Uh, but beautifully, I don't even know exactly all of the different. I don't want to, and it's great.
No, that's exactly because it's not like you are not working because I know you're working. You enjoy what you do, but these are things that you've delegated out. All right. So using Make, which is Make and Zapier are very similar in terms of automation. They can probably be considered competitors, or one gets a little bit better than the other, but that you
That's why
can.
we have both too, is because
Yeah,
there's certain thing yeah, that's why we've got both of them. And
that
you
makes
turned
sense.
me on to Make, I was using Zapier already, and then you were like, "Hey, check out Make," and then we
Yep.
did, and I was like, "Oh, it's better for these pieces." Well, on my team, Ian was like, "It's better for this and not this," and I was like, "Great,
Right.
do that." Yeah.
That's right. And there's other ones that people use out there, but those are kind of the two main ones that I think about. And then Go High Level is a CRM, but it builds landing pages, kind of like a HubSpot, I would say. If you're wondering what High Level is, it's like a HubSpot, not nearly as expensive, and probably with a little bit I wouldn't even say limitations. It's just different. It's less expensive. It's easier for entrepreneurs because we pay a bunch of money a year because we use HubSpot. I use Go High Level within my own stuff with Franchise Secrets and the masterminds, but that's what that is. I just want to give context for what that is. And then how do you, so you said you have a social media, well, tech, let's go with your VA. All of these VAs that you have, are they from the Philippines? Because you said all this
Mhm.
kind of referral. So you started out with your tech guy that you thought was full time, really wasn't full time, bought him a computer, just being kind. Kristin is who you are. He's like,
Yeah.
I want to be with you full time because of how you treat people. And I know how you treat people. So I can totally see that happening. And then through referrals, you were able to pick up the data person, the editing person, the Facebook person, or the social media person, and probably others as well. Is that kind of how that played out in the Philippines?
It really did, yeah. It's been a lot of fun. There's another, site, I think we've now added 2 people that aren't by referral, and it was from there's a site in the Philippines, it's a lot like Indeed, that we could put in the comments for everyone,
Is it online PH?
yes, yes, it is, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then if you, I have Cosm coming on in a podcast here in a little bit, but he's got, he'll train people. He will train them on High Level. He'll train them on Make and Zapier and Chat GPT and all of these different things. And so they're always training, and they treat them Alex Ramose's training. They bought all of that training. They're training all their VAs on that kind of stuff. And then you will, you hire them through, Cosm's company, which is great. So a lot of different ways to do it, but I encourage people, if you are not using virtual assistants, super easy thing to do is just go into ChatGPT or your learning management of choice and just say, hey, this is what I do on a daily basis, and this is what my current team looks like, and here are their job descriptions. Um, should I be looking at hiring offshore or a virtual assistant? And then just start to ask it, like, if it's a yes, like, who should I hire? Like, from what country? What would they be doing? And then that will at least start to help you understand where you could hire somebody like that. Any thoughts? Like, if you were starting from scratch, how would you go about seeing even the need that you had and the opportunities to hire some offshore help?
Yeah, I mean, every year I have my entire team do a time journal. We're actually in it right now and literally writing down everything that you do. And then as a business owner, writing down the dollar value of those items. And then, like, okay, well, if it's a $10 an hour or $5 an hour job and you're doing it, you are the assistant.
Yeah.
So everything that is not in your wheelhouse of genius, and that brings in a lot of money, like all the other items, really, the best, highest use is to have other people help you. And so that's the first thing I would do is like a time journal, and then okay, these are all the pieces, and then that online PH is a great way to start if you know anyone else that has, um, virtual assistants, and asking them how they got started. I would start out with that online PH at Cosm has a great deal going. Like there's ways to do it. You're either going to pay in time or in money, and choose and go.
Choose wisely.
Yeah.
I known the time, like doing the time like audit with calendar and the things that you do every day. And I just never really, I started to do it, but I could never get 30 minutes of my brain to stop and to actually get into the weeds of that. So what I did is I created a GPT, or yeah, either I created a GPT or just asked, chat GPT. I'm like, here's my calendar. And I just started showing it everything in the calendar. Like, what are my high value and low value tasks? Like, what should I change? What should I be thinking about? And I literally changed some of the things that I do. then I started to audit my emails, and everyone's like, "Oh, you're in your email way too much." Everybody says they're in their email way too much. And I'm like, I must be in my email all the time. So I started to like look at my emails, and I just started to count like how many emails could I give to somebody else to reply to? How many of these are just, delete or whatnot? And how much time am I spending? So I would just do it in the morning and at night. And I realized that I don't have a lot of wasted email time, because over the past few years, I get rid of all the stuff that is garbage. Like it all goes in the folders, newsletters, this, that, and the other, all goes into folders, and I don't respond. And now like the emails that I do get are emails that I need to respond to from my business partner. So there's very few, there's probably 10 minutes a day that I could save by having somebody else get into my email. But I'm like, why would I create all of these different systems to save 10 minutes possibly save 10 minutes a day with somebody else, and then I might miss something or whatnot. I might be thinking about that wrong, but if I was in my email an hour or 2 hours a day, and there's something that somebody else could delegate or get answers to, or something like that, I might need to change it. But also I have Stacy, and I have other people around me that are doing a lot of things for me. So I just don't see a lot of the emails. But I was surprised by that. The point of all that is I did an audit. I did an audit on my emails, and I did an audit on my calendar, and I'm having a pretty good use of my time. But I think it's because I've been working at it for a while.
Yeah, I love everything you just said, and I have a couple people in my email, and so like I don't even see the majority of the crap that goes in there, and we have a lot of systems with folders. And yeah, I have response time. I literally have it as response time, because I look at email as literally as everyone else's priorities, and it gets in the way of what I'm trying to get done for the day. Like what is my highest priority? And so yeah, my email is like response time in the morning and response time right before the end of the day. And that's it. Unless it's on fire, and then I have one of the two people in my email say, "Hey, go check this." And I'll be like, "Okay, I'm gonna go into my email." Because otherwise
Yeah.
it's kind of like social media can be, right? It's like a suck. It sucks
Yeah.
time. Like,
I think it's that way for most people, and my business is different. And I think that's where like my business today is not as I mean, I've got franchises as a franchisee, but I have operating partners that operate those. I don't get any. I've never looked at the my company email account with that. I don't even think it works. I've never even opened it up on my computer because I don't need to. So if I was a franchisee, or if I, was a franchisor, that was like the founder that was fielding a lot of emails, then I would have somebody in there doing that. And I think my audit would turn out very differently because of the incoming messages of people that are wanting my time. Most of my emails are my partners today. And a lot
yeah,
of it's
yeah.
informational. But if they need me, they know to call me or text me. And I'm the same with them. I'm not going to, bombard them with emails expecting them to respond right away. So I think it's also how I've kind of trained people with my emails as well, because they know if they need me, they'll call or text me. And if they don't have my cell phone number, it's I haven't missed anything in a long time. So I'm feeling pretty
That's
good about all
awesome.
this.
You trained people how to treat you. Like we're
Yes.
always teaching people how to treat us. Like I think you've done a pretty good job of that actually.
Attention, franchisors and franchisees. There are two really important resources that I want to share with you that will help you avoid costly mistakes and increase your enterprise value. The first is our free Facebook group. It's a community that has over 4,000 franchisees and franchisors in it. When somebody asks a question, they get honest and authentic answers from multiple perspectives. You can join the group for free over at franchisesecrets.com/Facebook. The second resource I want to share with you is if you're a franchisee and you want to be around a community of successful Z's and other brands and in other industries, this is why I created the Franchisee Mastermind. If you want access to the best single and multi-unit owners to know what they're doing, or if you want to be around other multi-brand owners, then you'll want to check out my franchisee mastermind. The reason why people join is they want access to my Rolodex, my connections, to each other. They want a shortcut success, both short-term and long-term. Links will be in the show notes or at scalablefranchise.com.
All right, let's shift gears because I want to talk about like the next phase of your entrepreneur life. Like what are you going into? Let's talk about buying criteria. Let's talk about your mindset, like how it might have changed to from where you were 5 years ago to what you're looking at for the next 5 years.
Yeah, no, I love it. Well, so buying criteria wise, there's two types of businesses I'm looking at right now. One is like business to business, very service, um, oriented businesses. So, like plumbing, HVAC, restoration, service industries that aren't something that's, oh, maybe we need this. It's like, no, we need an HVAC. So like we need this item. So like things that are not trendy or cool, but kind of like boring businesses actually,
Mhm.
uh, are like the bread and butter of what I'm looking for. Um, essential non-trendy services. Actually, I always have my buying criteria on my desk, and I have all sorts of different ways that it's in my chat GPTs and everything else for this next 6 months in iteration. And 1 to 10 million in revenue, 200,000 to 1.5 million in EBITDA, recurring repeat customers, local or regional dominance, owner dependent but trainable. um, the things that I bring to those systems are, well, to those businesses are systems, leadership bench. I know marketing for sure, roll up potential, and leveraging. And I like boring and demand, and, reliable. Upside comes from systems, not heroics. That's the biggest thing, like systems, not heroics. Because you can train and replace yourself over and over again and roll up an entire system, which is something I believe I'm going to go toward.
So how do you find so explain what a roll-up is, and how have you been able to discover if that industry is one that would be conducive to a roll-up?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different factors to look at. It's if private equity is acquiring in that arena, and finding a cornerstone business, one that is run really well, to either partner with that person or acquire it outright, and use that as you acquire smaller companies, or sometimes even bigger ones, that are chaotic and need all those things, and you roll it up into this nice big beautiful bow, that can either be a wonderful cash cow that you want to keep, or you could then sell it to private equity or another bigger acquirer. um, and the EBITDA on that, and the multiple in revenue when you sell those assets, is much larger, than what you bought all those for. And you've done all the work to create that beautiful big system, though. And the issues are definitely generally like cultural as you're doing roll ups, instead of, it's like adopting all these systems and then culturally meshing all these people together. Like there's a lot of work involved in rolling it up. And it's kind of beautifully suited to like what I think I'm really good at. So yeah, that's a roll up basically.
How have you identified industries that private equity is interested in or is currently doing roll-ups or maybe might be getting into?
Yeah. Well, conversation with lots of people in the industries and overall in private equity and so on purpose, intentionally talking to the right people. Being in masterminds is helpful. Being like your mastermind, Justin's, Roland's, like all these masterminds is very helpful to get out and talk to everyone. And also another boring but predictable answer is I chat GPT the heck out of things too, um, and have a lot of those conversations. Trinity, my chat GPT gal, is knows a lot about these things and has been very helpful. So there are definitely industries I'm looking at on a much deeper level. And I like higher barrier to entry, both on the service industry side, from restoration and the boring building, industry items to the media side, where it's like hyper local the way that I've done, or industry based for an entire industry. I love what like Tony Robbins did right on Go High Level. His entire situation is on Go High Level too. Um, so I could acquire a media company as well. The likelihood is over the next 5 years, I'll acquire both those types of businesses because my team is uniquely seated to do both those things. So
So it's very similar to, like, you talked about some of your criteria. It's similar to criteria that we look at Front Street when we are talking to some of these entrepreneurs that they're wanting to franchise their brand, or we want them to. Sometimes it's we want them to franchise their brand, because we're starting to, in addition to being an FSO and then doing FSO and advisory work, we are becoming the franchisor. So we will work with an entrepreneur. Let's say they are like what you just described. Let's say they're $10 million company and they're making $2.5 million to $3 million in EBITDA. Well, like, that's interesting. So, and it's an industry, because we've identified some industries, some of the same ones that you described as interesting industries for us to become a franchisor in at Front Street. So we're talking to entrepreneurs like that. Some of them want to do a roll up. They want to be a part of a bigger thing. So that's why they want to, kind of join forces with us, and we can franchise it. But I've done a lot of deep research into different industries, and then just like you, talking to some people that are in industries. And one, I was just talking to a franchisor in an industry that I know very well, that's in home services. And I had two concerns about this industry. And one's been validated, and one is it's not, doesn't have the impact that I thought the negative impact that I thought it would, because it's already been kind of what's been happening in the past 5 years has already been factored into the marketplace of like their profitability now and what private equity thinks and all that. So all of that is, one of them was a valid concern without much impact. One of them's not a valid concern of mine. So this is after a lot of deep research. I was talking to a franchisor of one of these brands, a brand in one of these industries, and he's like, it's rough out there right now. He's like, actually, he's like, the industry as a whole has declined 25%. So I won't get into the industry. I won't get into the whys of it, but that's me talking to a potential competitor. He might've just been feeding me bad information. I don't think so, because that's not how we are with each other. But he's like, it's changed. It's not that great anymore. And the industry went down as a whole. And I've kind of validated some of that on the whys of that. The other thing is just doing deep research. You start to understand there are different groups out there that have very good information. And this is talking about, so I'm switching gears to talk about something different than that one particular industry. You can look at some of the large software providers. For instance, Service Titan. Service Titan is a large software provider of certain home service industries, and they will do write-ups because they are trying to kind of give people the lay of the land of an industry as a whole. So that is, you get some of these industry reports from some people that are not like compiling all of this information, but they have access to information that you and I don't have. So like, I'll find different write-ups on that. And then you can spend 20 or 30 or $40,000 on an industry report. I'm like, no, thank you. But there are reports out there that you can buy that will do deep dives into some of this stuff. But I'm finding you can just do a lot of deep research if you have the GPT, your custom GPT, set up the right way to do the kind of research that you want. And, when I'm doing research, I want it to look, by the way, let me pause here. Franchisees should be doing this type of research on industries that they're getting ready to buy. A lot of franchisees are looking at just the franchisor and researching the franchisor, not the industry. Another side tangent, because I have so much in my mind. I was just at a convention where they had multiple brands presenting, and I heard some of the feedback from some of the folks in the room where they're hearing all of these different brands. We just get to hear from a number of different brands. They were hearing from two different brands, two different sessions. One was telling them EBITDA margin was 15%. The other one was saying EBITDA margin is 35%. Who's
that's
right?
a big difference.
It's a
Yeah,
big difference. I don't
huge.
care. So I would look at that franchisees should look at that and be like, that, it doesn't matter if it's 50% or 35%. I want to validate that this is kind of general for the industry. And then what makes a higher or lower EBITDA or EBITDA margin in an industry? And what does it take to go from 0 to a million to 2 to 5 to 10 million? I want to look at all of that, because if you're looking at a $10 million business and the EBITDA margins, 35%, well, there's a reason why. How long did it take them to get there versus the one, maybe it's $1 million and it's 15%. Now, that wasn't the case. They both had very similar gross revenue, but the EBITDA margin was so different. And I'm like, that's the problem with franchising. Like, they put numbers, it could be real numbers, but you don't know the whys behind it. That's why industry research is so important. And so I encourage buyers out there to research the industry. That's what I do when I'm talking to these new brands. I will have a 30 to 50 page industry report that's pulled out that I get to see what's happening in this industry. And then as I'm talking to these different brands that are in the industry, I start to validate what it is. I was talking to, and I'm going to pause here in just a second, Kristin, let you chime in. I was talking to one founder of a mom and pop doing fantastic, but I'm like, at these margins, how could a franchisee make any money? Because he's a mom and pop. I'm like, how could a franchisee make any money? I pulled up my industry report, and they're like, there's a lot of discounts in the supply chain in this particular industry. He was showing this as retail price, not purchase price for this particular P&L. So he's showing the P&L of like, this is what retail price is for the product for this company. And he's not buying it at retail. He's buying it at wholesale. So you can't factor. So you got to look and see, what does that look like if this is in the franchise? As a franchisor, are they selling to you at retail, or are you getting to participate in some of the wholesale pricing? Well, if it was at retail, maybe that's the 15% guy. There's no way he's making any money because the franchisor is stealing so much from the franchisee by not sharing in that. Or maybe they're just being untruthful about the 35% margin. You don't know. At the point of it is, you don't know. You've got to do your own research. All right. I think that's my soapbox. What say you, Kristin?
Hey, I agree on a really high level with that, because I mean, in franchising too, the franchisors make money in different ways. They make money overall royalty from, so immediately they make money like in the publishing world on the ads themselves, right? When you're talking about a beauty industry, they're making money on the products at retail sometimes, right? To the franchisee. So your profit margins as a franchisee are really different depending on how that structure is set up. So you really need to know, like in the industry, what is the actual numbers, and not from a wonky P&L, but from outside sources for sure, with multiple sources. I think that that's really important. And when buying a franchise or going into a franchise and putting your sweat equity in there, really doing your research and asking the questions and talking to someone in the franchise system is really important to make good decisions. So, how is the franchisor making their money is a really important question for you to be asking, because then you know what's left. And it's got to be worth it for what's left for you to own that franchise and for you to be successful. So that I love your soapbox. I agree 100%. And understanding like where in the life cycle of a franchise that they are. Are they emerging? Are they in growth mode? Are they in maturity? Are they in the plateau or the decline possibly? Because there's definitely 4 cycles in a
Mhm.
franchise. Knowing where it's at's important.
It is. So, how has your franchisor changed from franchisee number 5 to where it is today in terms of how it supports franchisees? Like, give us like the spread there, like how different it
Oh my
really.
goodness. So when I started, my training actually had no script. I actually recorded the training and got it transcribed and gave it to my training class. Like, I was like, "Hey, here's our scripts." So it was definitely emerging. So N2 as a whole wasn't. It had the HOA product and everything else, but RP itself was like, it had only been around for a year. and it was like the Wild West, I was emerging for sure. So I got to be part of creating all the things, which makes me happy. And it was a good spot for me to come in at. Um, and now there are so many optional services that you can buy from N2 to have N2 take care of all the things for the franchisee. So there's so much more support possible within the franchise. So it's so many more systems and SOPs and all the things. So it went from, that initial emerging phase to the growth where, we went from 5 to now there's like 130 across the country in real producers. And, there's really like 150, 170 possible. So like we're getting close to that cap for real producers. And the HOA has also grown. So we're in between like stage 3 and 4 really for real producers and N2. Uh, and it's beautiful to understand. And I've been through all the different parts, and understanding from their perspective is really important as a franchisee, is to also think about where they're coming from, not just like where you're coming from or your needs, but the overall brand and like why they're deciding on different things. And also being honest with yourself, like I'd be doing that too, probably, like that makes sense. Like, um, and you have choices, right? Like if you are really happy, then just keep on keeping on. If you aren't as much at the top of that line, then you got choices. You can add more businesses, add other franchises. You can stay where you're at, but also I just don't complain about it. You know what I mean? Like because you got choices. You know what I mean? So yeah.
All right, I want to shift gears because you've been around Justin Donald. You know him quite a bit. Around the Tribe of Investor Mastermind, just investing tax savings. As an entrepreneur, what are some of the what are some of the things that you wish you would have known like 5 years ago that you've learned over the past 5 years?
Oh my goodness. So many great things. So we worked so hard to eke out like another 5%, 10% EBITDA, right? Like we're working our tushes off in our businesses to do that. But then we're paying like 40% tax rate. And, that's kind of interesting numbers right there, right? So when you focus on that number right away, that can really vastly change your wealth landscape. And so that's what I got smacked really good with taxes one year, and then I was like, "Well, I need help with this." And I joined Justin's group, learned a ton, got put so much in place. Like I did the super Roth and cash balance and all these things, um, to mitigate taxes and also to grow wealth like quickly. That's not taxed; it grows tax free. And then I did a solar project. And that was really helpful and helped get money back from 3 years of taxes. Uh, and then cost segging these properties from last year. I'm a real estate professional, and I'll do that again this year. And just keeping that tax rate really, really low has been really helpful in creating actual assets and wealth. And it's not just what you take in. It's not being because I've been number one friend too for like 3 or 4 years now. And that number, I don't even really look at that. I look at like, what do I keep? What does my family keep? What are we growing? What legacy are we gonna, leave in the world? Um, and it's been really cool. Like I've learned a lot the last 5 years, and highly recommend that group. Highly recommend learning about those things. Um, and
Where else
just
would you learn? So I want to give, so Justin's got a free community. Go to Lifestyle Investor. There's a free community that you could join. What are some of the other people that you would recommend somebody following, getting their newsletter, getting their book? So I want to be able to help some folks out.
Oh, goodness. So it's funny. My actual background is a ton of books, and um, well, Wealth Without Risk by Roland Fraser was really good. The Tax Free Wealth, I think that was one of the ones on Justin's
I
top
think
20.
that tax free, that is,
Tom, Tom
yeah,
Wheelwright.
I'm right. He's got a
Um,
good newsletter and a kind of a good website. I would
I
check
get
that
his newsletter. Yeah, I
out.
check his newsletter. He has a good newsletter. That's a great resource. That was my favorite tax book. I've read like 10 different. There's about how money was formed. Actually, Justin's top 20 books. I think I've read like 10 of them now.
Yeah,
On
just go to Lifestyle Investor. Justin's got his top 20 books somewhere, and
highly
there's some great
recommend
ones.
highly recommend that. Yeah, highly recommend that. I've read like 10 of the 20, and one of them is like this thick, and I started it and I will come back to it. Ooh, it's dry.
So
Yeah.
give me a sense, however you want to, the tax effective tax rate of X to now it is what, or kind of how many hundreds of thousands of dollars have you saved over the past X amount of years? Give me some sense, whatever you're comfortable with, because I want people to
Yeah, like
understand what we're
hundreds of
talking about.
dollars,
Hundreds of thousands.
like million. Yeah. Yeah, lots of money. It has saved a lot of money. When you cost seg properties, it literally the taxes I would have paid bought 2 of the houses. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, good lord. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, it's a large situation. So, and I know other people, like there's different tax. I just was on a call. The more you network with people that are doing these things and you talk about it, because I really believe wholeheartedly in like clean water in, clean water out. Like if you're just taking and learning and taking and not teaching and helping others, it's like swamp water. You know what I mean? It gets really dirty. So you should literally, as you learn, help other people. So I'm always talking about these things and trying to help other people with these things just in random conversations. And then I get brought in these rooms where I learn another strategy. Like there's a guy that I just learned about recently that I just forward him to 2 other people because he is helping people with like millions of dollars of taxes with these just a couple different strategies that it doesn't make sense for me right now, but I'm excited for when it does make sense for me.
That's the thing. There's different levels. The more money you make, there's more levers that you can pull, but there's so
Yeah,
many levers that you can pull, even if you're not making a lot of money. And there's just people are
immediately.
a lot on the table. So I'm talking about this more and more. Get in some of these communities, follow some of these people, do your own research, and ask your accountant, your CPA, like some of these questions that you're learning. And we have a session. I don't know if it's in the open community or if it's just in the mastermind, but like how to vet a CPA and the questions to ask your CPA, because way too many people have the wrong CPA.
You
Um,
know, so I get really passionate about that one. Tom Wheelwright in his book, literally has like 20 questions that were really good to ask a CPA. And, that tax code is 99% about how the government wants you to act to save money on your taxes. Only like 1% is actually here's what you do. The rest is like, here's what you can do. And this is what the government wants you to do. And these are the benefits of doing these things. And if you work with someone who's really all about that 99%, and you can ask the question like how else can we structure this where we would save more on taxes? I'm always asking that question, like what else can we do? Like we and I heard about this, or I'm always asking questions, and that leads to more answers that help you save money on your taxes. So please do that. That's super exciting for everyone. You don't have to be making tons of money like Eric said.
you're an example of like a franchisee that is a true entrepreneur. A lot of people tend to think like as a franchisee, you're not really an entrepreneur. Multiple ways to be very entrepreneurial within a franchise system. One that we haven't talked about, it's not who you are right now, but you can be like what I'm doing. I have investors. I'm an investor in a franchise as a franchisee, or you can get that franchise going where you are just very semi-absentee, and then you're using the franchisor to train your employees and do they go to training your GM, and you can really leverage that as a franchisee, and you're doing some of that. But what you're really doing is like you are a successful franchisee. You've built that organization. You've sold one, so you were able to. It's nice to have a chunk of cash come back in, especially if you have levers that you can pull on tax mitigation. But then you've done short-term rentals. I know that you've done a lot of alternative investments, not just the stock market, and you are getting ready to buy another business that's outside of franchising. So I think it's important to for franchisees to understand there is life outside of just your particular brand. Any thoughts or comments on that?
I thank you. I love what you just said. As a multi-unit franchise owner, you have scaled businesses, you have done the marketing, done all the different pieces, have the leadership bench. Like, you have all these things that you've created and done from scratch a lot of times if you started when it was an emerging brand. So you've actually helped create an overall business. And even if you weren't in the emerging and you're in the other part, you've seen all the pieces to create a great, business. So you can become a portfolio CEO and really add more businesses and just keep learning and asking questions and figure out what lights you up and what's exciting, because if you like to build, then you can just keep building and figure out what is exciting, what frustrates you. Like, ask yourself a lot of questions. Like, I journal a lot too. Like, just ask, like, what lights me up, what's exciting. And I personally like to build things, and I like to like get the system rolling and get it efficient and um like serve a lot of people and bring value to the marketplace. Like, that's exciting to me. It doesn't feel like work. So that's why I want to just keep going. It's also cool if you don't feel like that and you don't want to do that and you're where you're at. But if you're someone like that, like, go for it. Learn about more franchises. Learn about, and if it's, learn about buying criteria of what is exciting for you. Like, you could own another business outside of that industry or that feeds into it. Like, I love, I looked at Walt Disney's, his whole PDF and schematic of how his businesses would all feed each other and the ecosystem of Disney. It was fascinating what he thought of at the beginning to create what he created. Like, amazing. And that's a true dynasty masterpiece. But what else could you create that would even feed what you've got right now? So I love that. And I really hope that from this podcast, other people look at more businesses and just growth overall for these things. And alternative investments are really smart when the marketplace, I just looked at a study where every 4 years, literally, there's like a 50% dip in the marketplace. It's like on average every 4 years. So like, even index funds, like, it's smart to be diversified in a lot of different ways.
Well, Kristin, I seriously can't believe you have not been on. I'm glad you're finally on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
It's so good, so good, and I'm just so grateful for you and your friendship. And once you buy your next business, let me know, and then we'll have to look at what you did, because we know what your plan is. We'll have to see like what you actually did.
Yeah, I'm excited. Like, let's have fun with that. I can put I know you do notes afterward too. I can add some different resources for everyone. And, thank you, Eric. Thanks for letting me share. Yeah.
Love it. See ya.
See ya.
All right, don't go yet though. Don't go.
Okay. All right.
Thanks for listening to the Franchise Secrets podcast. Links to everything can be found over at franchisesecrets.com. And if you want my help with anything from starting your own franchise to growing your current franchise business, please visit scalablefranchise.com.